Narcissistic men are drawn to spiritual women in a way that mirrors the behavior of moths seeking a flame. However, their interest is not driven by love or a genuine desire to grow or transform. Instead, they are fixated on her light, but not because they want to bask in it, they want to extinguish it. They do not approach her out of admiration or reverence. Rather, they approach her because her presence represents a threat to everything they have built upon their false selves. The light she radiates exposes the darkness they are trying so hard to conceal. This woman is not just another beautiful face. She is a living disruption to the false reality they have worked so hard to maintain. The control they have over others is threatened by her very essence, because unlike others, she cannot be faked, bought, or manipulated in the same way. She perceives things on a deeper level than mere appearances. She listens not only to words but to the energy behind them. And because of this, she becomes a source of intense fascination for the narcissist. He is drawn to her, not because of any admiration, but because he feels the need to dim her light. His only goal is to extinguish it. But make no mistake, this is not because she is weak, it is because she is powerful, and that power is what terrifies him the most. Now let's talk about why narcissistic men are specifically drawn to spiritual women. Welcome back to the Narcissist Exposed channel, where we dive deep into the complex behaviors of narcissists and their patterns. In today's episode, we'll be discussing 5 compelling reasons why narcissistic men are particularly attracted to spiritual women. Before you dismiss this with thoughts like, "I'm not spiritual, yet I've been a target of a narcissist," let me explain. There's a high probability that your soul is ancient, deeply intuitive, and profoundly connected, whether you are aware of it or not. This means the abuse you endured wasn't merely psychological. It was spiritual warfare at its core. The narcissist targeted you not just because of your outward qualities, but because of the deeper energy that surrounds you. I've emphasized this in previous episodes, and I'll say it again. Stay with me until the very end of this one, and you might come to understand not only why the narcissist sought you out in the first place, but also the deeper truth of who you are at your core. This episode will open your eyes to the reality that there is far more to this dynamic than you may have initially realized. Reason 1. Filling his darkness with her light. She will instinctively try to fill the deep darkness inside him with the light that she carries within herself. That is what she has always known to do. A truly spiritual woman does not simply look at what's on the surface. She feels the layers of emotions and pain that lie buried beneath the calm exterior. The gentle charm he uses, the way he flashes that half-smile, she sees right through it, noticing the flicker of unresolved pain in his eyes, even when he is pretending to be fine. She hears the subtle tension in his voice, the way his words sound kind yet lack sincerity, and she knows that something is off. Without being asked or invited to, she begins to pour her warmth into him. She shares her empathy, her understanding, her intuitive love, everything she has to offer. She wants to heal him, to help him feel whole again. Slowly her light begins to fill in the cracks in his broken foundation, and for just a brief moment, he feels something he hasn't felt in a long time. He feels alive again. The numbness he has lived with starts to fade as he experiences the touch of her light. But this feeling, unfortunately, is only temporary because deep down he resents her for doing what she does. Her light, as much as it illuminates him, makes him feel exposed, vulnerable in a way he has never allowed himself to be before. She can see through all the walls he has built, and her presence naturally calls him to a sense of accountability. Her energy carries the invitation for change, transformation, and healing. But to someone like him, someone who is deeply afraid of changing, this invitation feels more like a threat than a gift. The idea of being exposed, of facing the truth of his own flaws and darkness, fills him with resentment. He doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to confront what he has hidden from the world and from himself for so long. Instead of rising to meet the challenge she offers, he begins to resent her more for seeing him so clearly, for seeing the parts of him he desperately wants to keep hidden. And that's when everything shifts. The woman who once felt like a beacon of hope, the woman who seemed like his salvation, now suddenly feels like his enemy, not because she changed, but because she saw him too clearly. She saw the truth of who he really is, and that truth is something he is not ready to face. Reason 2. Believing in his unmanifested potential. She will believe in a potential within him that tragically will never manifest into reality. Spiritual women are not easily fooled by outward appearances. They are drawn to the energy, the frequencies beneath the surface. Where others may see only the present, they have the ability to perceive the future, to see not just what is, but what could be. She does not simply see him as he is in this moment, flawed, maybe distant, or even hiding, but rather she sees who he could become. She sees the wounded boy inside, the one who was never loved the way he deserved, the one whose heart was left untended for too long. Beneath the layers of ego, she recognizes a divine spark, a glimmer of something pure and untainted that could one day shine through if only he were given the right kind of love. She sees the possibility that with enough care, he could become an artist, a healer, a visionary, someone who could stand tall and create meaningful change in the world. But for now, that potential is trapped behind a false self, a facade he's built to protect his heart. And she falls deeply in love with that idea, the idea of who he could be, not who he is. She gives herself completely to him, pouring all of her energy, all of her love into him with the belief that if she loves him enough, purely and without condition, he will eventually awaken. She devotes herself to the belief in his transformation, anchoring her hope in the image she has created of his higher self. She believes in his future self more than he does. She sees the greatness inside him, and she clings to the possibility that he will rise to meet that potential. But what she does not yet understand, not in the beginning, is that he will never return to that version of himself. He will never evolve into the person she believes he could be, not because he cannot, but because he does not want to. He is comfortable in his current state, content to remain where he is. He wants her to see his potential, to believe in it with all her heart, because that feeds his ego. But he has no intention of actually becoming the person she envisioned. He craves her belief in him, not because he wants to grow, but because it reinforces the image he has created of himself. The attention she pours into his potential does not nourish his evolution. It feeds his ego, and he becomes addicted to that admiration. He grows to enjoy being seen as someone capable of greatness without ever needing to make the effort to actually become that person. She touches his soul, connects with him on a deep and intimate level, and instead of being humbled by the vulnerability she offers, he uses that connection to further fuel his own performance. Her love becomes a tool for him to continue hiding behind his false self, to play the role of someone who could be great without ever having to do the work to get there. And in this dynamic, it is she who is left believing in a dream that he has no intention of making real. Reason 3. Forgiving more than she should. She will forgive more times than she should, because she believes deeply in the inherent goodness of the divine. For her, forgiveness is not something she does as a tactic or as a means to an end. It is simply a part of who she is. It flows naturally from her, like a river that cannot help but run its course. She sees the humanity in everyone she meets, even when others may struggle to see it. She believes that every person, no matter how lost or broken they seem, is deserving of grace. She understands that even the most wounded souls deserve compassion, because she knows firsthand the deep impact of pain and trauma. She is well acquainted with suffering. She has lived through it, and more importantly, she has healed from it to a certain degree. She has experienced what it feels like to be unloved and abandoned, and because of that she refuses to withhold love from others even when it costs her. Even when offering love feels like it drains her energy, she continues to give, believing that her love has the power to heal, to transform, and to bring light to those who need it most. She believes with all her heart that if she just keeps showing up with love, even when the road gets hard, eventually the pain will cease, and the real, authentic version of the person she loves will emerge. She holds on to the hope that in time, the love she gives will break down the walls of emotional defense and open up a space for healing and growth. But the narcissist, unfortunately, understands this. He knows exactly what her forgiveness means, and he sees it as a weakness, an opening that he can exploit for his own gain. Instead of recognizing the purity of her heart, he mistakes her kindness and compassion for helplessness. While she offers her love, hoping that it will help him transform, he is using her vulnerability to test how much he can push her, how far he can bend her before she finally snaps. Her refusal to give up on him, her unwavering belief that love is the answer, becomes the very thing he uses to cross boundaries without fear of consequence. To him, forgiveness isn't something sacred or healing. It becomes a tool, a strategy, a way to keep her hooked in the cycle of giving without receiving, and he continues to exploit her kindness to serve his own needs. Reason 4. Weaponizing her spiritual discernment. She possesses the rare and invaluable gift of spiritual discernment, a deep inner knowing that allows her to perceive the truth beneath the surface. But to him, this gift is something to be exploited. She is far from naive. In fact, she is the one person in his life who sees through the carefully constructed persona he has built around himself. Her discernment is ancient. It is not something she learned through intellectual study, but something that is embedded in her very being, woven into her bones. It is an instinctive, intuitive knowing that arises from a deeper wisdom, one that allows her to feel when something is off, even before it fully manifests. She picks up on the subtle dissonance between words and the energy behind them, recognizing when actions don't align with intentions, even if she can't always explain exactly why. This ability to sense the truth so clearly terrifies him, because she is the one person who cannot be completely deceived. No matter how much he tries to hide behind falsehoods, she will always be able to feel the truth in her soul. This realization is what drives him to work so tirelessly to manipulate the situation. Instead of acknowledging the truth, or running away from it, he decides to take control of it, to twist it to his advantage. He begins his subtle campaign of gaslighting, trying to convince her that her instincts are wrong, that what she senses is not real. He tells her she is imagining things, that she is overthinking, and laughs when she tries to express what she is picking up on. He undermines her confidence in herself and her abilities, attempting to make her question the very gift that makes her so powerful. Over time, this constant invalidation takes its toll, and she starts to doubt her own perception of reality. Once that seed of doubt is planted, he starts to reshape the world around her to fit his narrative. He uses her own language of discernment against her, twisting it to make her feel as though she is the one creating the problem. He says things like, "You're just projecting, you're being too sensitive, or you're making up stories in your head," all designed to silence her inner voice and make her feel like she cannot trust herself. Slowly but surely, he takes the deepest and most valuable part of who she is, her intuition, and turns it into something she fears. He knows that if he can disconnect her from her inner voice, from the powerful spiritual guidance that has always guided her, she will be much easier to manipulate. The more he distorts her perception of reality, the more control he gains over her. Her gift, once a source of strength and clarity, becomes a tool of fear and self-doubt. And with each passing day, as she struggles to reclaim her trust in herself, he tightens his grip, making it harder for her to recognize the truth within and around her. Reason 5. Exploiting her spiritual values. She lives by spiritual values that are deeply rooted in her soul, and he counts on those values to escape facing the consequences of his actions. There is something unshakable, something powerful about a woman who walks in alignment with her inner truth, who stays grounded in her principles, no matter what challenges come her way. Her kindness is not just a superficial act, something she does for show. It is a natural extension of who she is. It's a part of her essence, and for someone like him, that authenticity is hard to comprehend. For a narcissist, kindness is just a performance, something that can be manipulated and used. But for her, compassion is not something that runs dry when things get tough. She doesn't pull back or become bitter when life tests her. Instead, her kindness deepens. She does not love out of need or from a place of lack. Her love comes from an abundant overflow, a wellspring of goodness that flows freely because it's rooted in her spiritual connection. Even when she is hurt by the very person she tries to love, she strives to act from grace, to respond with understanding and compassion. She does not lash out, she does not retaliate, and she does not seek revenge. While many people might react with anger or frustration, she holds herself back, choosing to hold her peace when most would explode. And this is precisely where he sees an opportunity. He knows that she won't easily expose him or his flaws, that she won't publicly shame him or confront him in a harsh way. He understands that she has no desire to punish him, because her values don't align with seeking vengeance. He knows that if he shows enough emotion, if he cries hard enough, tells a story of sorrow that pulls at her heartstrings, or simply disappears for long enough to make her worry, she will feel compassion for him and let him off the hook. He sees her goodness, her unwavering dedication to walking the higher road, as a hiding place for his wrongdoings. He exploits her innate desire to heal instead of harm, knowing that she will always try to fix what's broken instead of causing more damage. He takes advantage of her forgiving nature, using it to avoid any real accountability for his actions. Her commitment to spiritual responsibility and her deep connection to her values make it difficult for her to hold grudges, and this is something he knows all too well. In her desire to be understanding and compassionate, she often ends up giving him passes he doesn't deserve, passes that allow him to evade the consequences of his manipulative and hurtful behavior. He takes the very traits that make her divine, her kindness, her compassion, her integrity, and twists them into tools that protect him from facing judgment. Her goodness, once a light that shines brightly and illuminates the darkness around her, becomes something he can use to shield himself from the consequences of his actions. He weaponizes her light, turning her grace into a protective cover for his behavior, ensuring that he can keep escaping accountability while she remains caught in the cycle of trying to love and heal him. In doing so, he transforms her divine qualities into something that serves him, and her light, which should be a beacon of truth and love, becomes his shield, deflecting the very responsibility he should face. Conclusion. It was an attempt to sever you from your very source, to disconnect you from the core of who you are. That is the reason why it happened. The intention was to make you forget the truth of your being, to obscure the clarity of your purpose. They wanted to drown your deep intuition in a sea of doubt, to make you question the inner wisdom that has always guided you. They sought to suffocate your discernment, to silence the voice within that has always helped you see the truth even when others couldn't. They wanted to shame your natural empathy, to make you feel as though your compassion for others was a weakness rather than a gift. They wanted to turn your softness, the gentleness of your heart, into something that seemed like stupidity, something that others could take advantage of, instead of recognizing it for what it truly is. But here's the deeper truth. He came into your life because your light disturbed something within him that he has been hiding from for his entire life. Your presence triggered something inside him that he could not ignore, something buried so deep that he could not confront it. And in the end, you did not lose. No, if you're still standing, if you're still healing, still feeling, still listening to the words I'm sharing with you right now, then your light was not destroyed. It was impacted, yes. It was challenged. It was tested, but it was never destroyed. In fact, it has been tempered, like steel in a forge. Your light is now wiser, more refined, and more precise. It is sharper than it has ever been, able to cut through the distractions and the falsehoods with even more clarity than before. And when something or someone comes knocking on your door again, when life throws another challenge your way, it won't be able to penetrate the strength of the frequency you now embody. You have been transformed by everything you have gone through, and that transformation has made you stronger, more in tune with who you really are. Now is the time for you to fully step into this version of yourself, to embody your authentic self, the self that has always been there, waiting to emerge. You are the same person you were meant to be from the very beginning, from your origin. All of the struggles, all the pain, all the challenges were part of the process that shaped you into the person you are now, a person who is not easily swayed, not easily broken. So take this moment to honor who you are, to recognize the growth that has taken place, and to embrace the strength that lies within you. With that, let's bring this episode to a close. Thank you so much for tuning in and for taking the time to listen. I look forward to connecting with you again in the next one.